guys, Lori here. I'm here today to do a mashup review of 3 books. I'm going to talk about The Midnight Queen, I'm going to talk about Undertow, and I'm going to talk about A Court of Thorns and Roses. The first book I'm going to talk about is The Midnight Queen by Susie Izzo Hunter. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. It just was not as engaging as I liked. I know I've said previously that first books in series, which this is, tends to focus a lot on world building, and I normally don't mind it because I think the world is normally really engaging, but this book, the world building really did detract away from it, for me at least. But I'll give you guys a brief summary of what the book's about. It's about this boy named Gray, and he is living or going to Merlin College, which is where you train to be a magician or a wizard or whatever, and something happens, and he can't remember what happens, and he's sent to his professor's house as penance for what happened, and so he eventually finds out something bad happened to one of his friends. And he meets this girl named Sophia, who is his teacher's daughter, and they develop a friendship. But it's a really complicated book, and I don't think I was expecting such a complicated novel, but I really did like the characters. It just wasn't, I got lost in the details. It takes place in, I would say Victorian England, I think. It's a very historical-based book, and I think between the historical thing and the magical components, it just wasn't as strong as I would have liked, but I really did like the characters, and I thought all the twists were nice. I saw some of the twists coming, but there were some twists that really, really caught me off guard. There was a lot of characters in the book, so you really had to, pay attention, and I think I just chose the wrong time to read this novel. I wish I would have waited and read it a little bit later when I was a little bit more engaged. But I'm hopeful for the sequel. The series is called Unnoticed Magic Novel. As I said previously, the storyline was really cool and really engaging, and I'm excited to see where the story goes. I felt like this was just a grounding book, and I felt like maybe in the future it will get a little bit more in-depth, and we'll be able to see the world and the characters really develop. There was a lot of changes between all of the characters, and I was surprised by the end of it, so I would be intrigued to see what happens next. But yeah, it was an interesting book. I just don't think it was as executed as well as I would have originally hoped. But I gave it 3 stars. Wasn't my favorite, and it took me a while to get through this book. And the book is not that long. It's it's a little bit over 400 pages. But it was just, it dragged. So if you like high fantasy, just when you go into this book, realize the world building might overtake the book a little bit. And it was a little bit hard to focus on what you were focusing on. Sorry. But yeah, so those are all my thoughts about Midnight Queen. I did a spoiler review in my Booklinks blog, so you can look at that below. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on Midnight Queen. And this is the first book in the Noticed Magic novel, the first series. The next book I'm going to talk about is Undertow by Michael Buckley. So now I'm going to talk about Undertow by Michael Buckley. I really like this book. I gave this book 5 stars. In contrast to Midnight Queen, I thought that this world building was really strong and really accented the book. So I'm going to give you a brief summary of this book. It follows this character named Lyric, and this book takes place on Coney Island, which maybe I was deeply engrossed in this because I'm from New York and I've been to Coney Island and Long Island, so I'm from Long Island. But I really liked it. It's about this girl named Lyric, and in this world, there is a break, and there are mermaids that keep on encroaching on their soil and have been visiting and becoming increasingly powerful in this world. And now it's they're on the shore, they're living amongst them, and the government doesn't know what to do, and the government's really scared. Lyric's dad's a cop, and Lyric's mom is actually, you figure this out in the first 2 pages, is actually a mermaid from the sea. And it's a big secret, and no one can know, or she'll be sent to this research facility and experimented on. And Lyric keeps on having these vivid headaches that they don't know what's causing them, but her mom seems to think that it has something to do with the water. But we really don't know. So in the first several chapters of this book, the mermaid students are invited to come to the school, and they have to. And there's a lot of bad stuff that happens in the first few chapters, and it creates a very, very dangerous climate. So the principal has this wonderful idea to use Lyric as a bargaining chip and to use Lyric to make these mermaids seem more humanistic and really to try to change them and convert them into being humans. To me, it was very, very reminiscent of like immigration and when, you know, people come to America to make them less like their foreign country. That's really, really totally abstract, but that was really what that book taught me, and like losing your culture. And I was really struck by that. And in a young adult novel, you don't normally get as an intense theme as that, but I really liked it. And she meets the crown prince of this world, and they start talking and they start bonding. But it's a really interesting dynamic because it's not the relationship you think is going to develop. You don't think how it's going to develop. But I really liked it. And he's just like this, like, arrogant, self-centered guy. But he doesn't know that's how he's being because that's not how his thing reacts. And his, you know, you learn a lot about both the mortal world and also the mermaid world in this. And you have, like, Beck's, Lyric's two friends, and one of them is in foster care or has a very, very bad home life, and that kind of is something I never would have expected to see in a fantasy novel, but I really, really liked it. I like that. I thought that was super, super interesting, a super creative twist that I really enjoyed, and I think that it really added it made the world a lot more complex because it wasn't just about the mermaids. It wasn't just about you know, mermaids being treated unequally. It's like it's about having an unequal presence even in society. So I really, really like that. Michael Buckley's very, very witty and has a lot of wit when he writes. So I really thoroughly enjoyed that, and I'm really, really excited to see where this book goes. It ended on a very, very clean cliffhanger. It like tied itself up with a bow, and I'm really excited to see what happens next. I really like the character of Lyric. I really like the character of Bex. I think that's her name. I don't have the book in front of me. Again, I'm sorry. But I liked it. I liked the entire novel. I thought the different mermaids that were described were not as pretty as you would have thought. They're kind of scary looking. And I think that again is another thing to say about our society. Like if you don't recognize someone or you don't know something, it's scary. So, but it created a very, very tense environment. And I think in some instances we could see that in our own country. Maybe scarily. Maybe we can. But, yeah, so it really opened my eyes, and I was really, really impressed with this novel. So I recommend that you check it out. Again, it's Undertow by Michael Buckley. I also did a spoiler review on my BookLikes blog, and I'm going to link my BookLikes blog below. Be sure to check it out. And the last book I'm going to talk about in this video is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I absolutely adore this book, and this book is a monster. This book I think is at least 400 pages, but it was really, really good. I love Sarah J. Maas. I love her Thorn and Flesh series. I'm in the middle of it. I still have 2 books left in that series, but this book really inspired me to hopefully get to that book sooner rather than later, and I have it. It's on my shelf. But this book follows a character named Freya, and she's a hunter. And she lives in this world where it's very, very bleak, I would say. And her family's very, very poor. They had a lot of financial hardships in the past, and the only way Freya could get enough meat for her family is to go out and hunt. And one day she goes out, and she winds up killing this wolf. And it turns out that this wolf is actually really a fairy that she killed. And in this world, the fairy world and the human world is separated, and it's explained to her that if you kill a fairy, you have 2 choices by this prince. You have 2 choices. Either you can die or you can go and live out the rest of your life in the fairy world. And Freya had this promise she has to keep, but she ultimately decides to go to the fairy world and hopefully try to find a way to get out and go back to her family, who she is determined to protect. But it is such a complex story, and it's so good. The world building is amazing. You meet so many different types of characters in this book. So you meet fairies. There's like 5 different courts of fairies, and you meet humans, and it's just such a complex, vast world. There is not a twist in this book that I saw coming. not a twist. Sarah J. Maas does such incredible, incredible world building, incredible storytelling. This book, she builds fantastic worlds. There's not a doubt in my mind. And this book is also a retelling of the story of Beauty and the Beast. So it really uses the story as the baseline, but really creates a really, really complex world. It wasn't until the end that I'm like, that's who Gaston is. You know, so it really took a lot of allowances with it, but it really created such a complex and vivid world. I grew to really love the main characters. There's 2 leads. It's Lucian, Talon, and Freya. Those are the 3 leads. Sarah J. Maas really likes to build such dynamic and different characters. Peru's Project, Reagan said this, she builds such divergent boys, and they are so different, and they have none of the similar characteristics. And I agree. Reagan, you were totally right. I totally agree with you. But I really do like Lucian. I'm hopeful that we get a little bit more of Lucian in the next book. Right now, this book is in a love triangle, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I really, I'm happy with how it diverged. But I will say, if you are a younger reader, this book is a higher young adult novel. There is some sexual content and a lot of allusions to that, so just be warned. It's still considered young adult, but I would definitely say it's not quite new adult, but it is a little bit up there. So just be cautious of that when reading. But I really liked it, and I cannot wait for the next book. As always, comment below, tell me guys what you guys thought of these books. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to hopefully by the end of the summer to get 10 subscribers. I have 5 right now. If I get 5 more, that'd be great. If I can get 10 subscribers, I'll do a cool giveaway. I don't know quite yet what. I'll think of something. But yeah, as always, I'm always here if you guys want to talk. Comment below. Go to my book club, go to my Twitter, all that fun stuff. But I'll talk to you guys later.